Now wait just a minute. If you're looking for that young whippersnapper that you saw on the thumbnail, well, I'm here to tell you that he's here right now because, in fact, that's a photograph of me from 38 years ago. I will soon be entering my 60th year on this planet, and today I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that I've learned along the way. So, to condense 50 plus years of hard-earned wisdom into just a few minutes, which I hope will benefit you. I think the first lesson that I can speak of is that, in my opinion, life knows best. And I have learned along the way to put my faith in life and to trust life. Life will lead you in great directions and take you on fantastic journeys. As an example, I am an American by birth and Dutch by choice. I've been living in the Netherlands now for 22 years. And when I first left my home in Philadelphia so many moons ago, I know that had I sat down at the kitchen table and started to contemplate a journey abroad and a life abroad, I think I would have been stopped cold in my tracks because I would have had far too many questions and they would have given me a great deal of apprehension about such a move. But that's not the way I went about it. By then, I was 35 years old, and I think I had already learned a thing or two about trusting in life and following my heart and just putting one foot in front of the next and watching the wonderment unfold. And that's how it happened for me. So that's one kernel of advice that I can give to you, is to trust life and let life do what she knows how to do. And related to that, something that I've often said is to step away from the wheel, meaning the steering wheel. You know, too often we tend to tinker with our own lives and try to force a certain direction and try to force a certain outcome. I've done that for many years. And it was finally later on in my life that I realized the more that I can get out of my own way and allow life, if you will, to unfold and to lead and have faith in that and trust in that, the better my life became and the easier it has become. The more that I get out of the way, the easier it becomes. Another thing that I've learned along the way is that happiness is largely a choice. It's true that circumstances can dictate our level of contentment and satisfaction and happiness to a degree, but we absolutely do have a hand in our own happiness. And that really comes down to what we choose to focus on. Too often we tend to notice, as one philosopher once said, Schopenhauer, we notice where the shoe pinches. You know, we don't tend to go through life thinking, gosh, my nose feels particularly nice today, or my little toe is quite comfortable. It's only when our nose is stopped up and congested that we notice it, or when our little toe is pinched in a shoe that we begin to take note. So it really, I think, is a matter of what we attend to. It's like a flower. You know, the more you attend to a flower, the stronger it grows, the bigger it grows. And when we withdraw our attention from a flower and neglect that flower, it withers and dies. And that's something that it can be applied to life in general. The more we attend to those things which fill us and fulfill us and satisfy our soul, the stronger those things become. And for those things which we find upsetting to us or disturbing to our lives, if we withdraw our attention from them, they eventually lose their hold on us. So really, we do have a choice in how happy we are. It is a concerted effort that we must make, and it has to be part of a daily practice. There is a quote that's often attributed, I think erroneously, but to Abraham Lincoln, and that is people are just about as happy as they make up their minds to be. And I would say that that is largely true. Again, circumstances aside, we have to realize that there are some things that are beyond our control, and our attention is best focused on those things which are within our control. So we may not be able to dictate the neighborhood that we live in, for example, or the political atmosphere or the crime rate of a country, but what we can control to a great extent are our thoughts. And something else I have learned along the way is it's obvious to me now, but thoughts precede feelings. And so the feelings that we have are a barometer of our thoughts. And if we are in a negative frame of mind, and if we have low-grade feelings, anger and frustration and despair and depression, these are indications that our thoughts are askew. And it's an opportunity to bring more awareness to our thoughts, because the truth be told, so many of our thoughts are automated, and we really must be careful about those automatic thoughts. And I think if we bring more awareness to them, we can realize and actually question some of those thoughts. Sometimes we may think, I'm not good enough, and it's an automatic thought, but it has a great deal of power. And that's a thought that really needs to be examined and questioned. Along those lines, I was once in a mindfulness class, and there was an exercise, and each of us was asked to put down our recurring thought, a negative thought, a fear that we had. So each person wrote that down on a piece of paper, and then we stepped forward and pinned that piece of paper with a clothespin to a clothesline that was in the center of the room. And it was interesting to see that the vast majority of things that people wrote down essentially boiled down to, I'm not good enough. So it's clear to me that that is a profound fear that we as people have. And again, I think it's something worth examining and questioning whether or not that is founded in any kind of reality. What is that based on, after all? So again, this is a reminder to really bring more awareness to our thoughts and be more vigilant about the kind of thoughts that we are thinking. Related to that, I think we have to be careful about our diets, so to speak, not just in terms of actual nutrition, in terms of food, but also the type of things that we are ingesting with regard to media, for example. Are we inundating our brains with negative information and bad news, catastrophic details? These things have an impact. And so it is worth being more mindful about what we consume, literally and figuratively. So all this is just to say that we create our own reality, and that is in very real ways. Sometimes we hear this phrase, we create our own reality, and it all sounds a bit airy-fairy, but it is actually true in a very practical sense. Again, when we choose to focus on what makes us feel good, then the good feelings follow. And in that sense, we do create our immediate reality. We begin to feel better. And as we feel better, our thoughts are better, and so on. And there is a great deal of momentum created around all of that. Something else that I have learned over the years, when we do go off the rails and we end up getting caught up in negativity, it is important to remember that every moment is an opportunity to begin again. We can at any point in any day reboot and reset. And sometimes that's more difficult to do than others. I realize sometimes there's so much momentum behind the negative thinking that it's difficult for us to redirect our thoughts. And so in times like that, maybe the best remedy is to take a nap. Sometimes that's very helpful in terms of resetting our thinking and subsequently our feelings. So that's something I can recommend. Don't be afraid of taking a nap and recharging and resetting yourself. Following on the subject of happiness and the pursuit of happiness, which we've heard so much about, I want to say that I recommend that you stop seeking happiness. I believe that despite what we've heard, seek and ye shall find, I think actually it's more like seek and ye shall seek. I think the state of seeking, by definition, keeps happiness at bay. If anything, what we seek, we tend to chase it away. First of all, happiness is not going to be found outside of yourself. That has to be found within you. That true sense of contentment and satisfaction has to be found within you. I often think that the first step outside of the true self is the first step of suffering, the first step towards suffering. And that leads me to one of the bigger truths that I've discovered in my life, is that we may spend many years, as I have, tinkering with the personality, reading self-help books, maybe going to therapy, trying to improve the personality, when in reality, the problem is the personality. And this can get very esoteric and very intellectual very quickly, and that's not what I mean to say. I just want you, I encourage you to think about your personality and all of the things that are attached to this concept of who it is that you believe yourself to be. We tend to think of ourselves as our name and our occupation and our likes and our dislikes. And I believe that this attachment to that construct of the personality is our fiercest addiction. And that's the one that we need to disrupt if we want to gain freedom. I have long been interested in obtaining freedom. And somewhere along the way, I discovered that the ultimate freedom is freedom from myself, freedom from my personality, from what I call the tyranny of the personality. Because again, we are so fiercely attached to that identification of ourselves as ourselves and all the things that we have determined over the years that we either are drawn to and attracted to that we like, or the things that we say that we dislike and that we reject. And all of these things are merely opinions formulated over time. And often they're based on inherited opinions, either from our family or from teachers or maybe from our religion. And I think it's important to examine all of that. And I think I have found, I can say, that when I pause for just a brief moment and sit with myself and in silence and focus on what is often called the witness, the one who sees, the one that watches. If we can inhabit that space, we begin to create a little bit of distance between that which is our true self and this personality, which again is simply a construct and a fiction. And if we can be free of that and gain just a little bit of space around that, our lives will improve markedly because we won't be so attached to the whims and the roller coaster ride of the personality. It is possible to find liberation in this life. And where can that be found? It can only ever be found in the present moment, in the now. That is where we are at our most powerful. The past is a graveyard. and the future is a fiction. So we really need to be here and be in this moment and be at our strongest and our most powerful and begin to disentangle ourselves from this idea of ourselves as the personality and to just be the breath and be in this moment and let go. I think that's really maybe one of the biggest lessons I've learned in this life is letting go. I have sometimes said that life is one long process of letting go. We let go all along the way. Eventually we let go of loved ones. We may lose our parents, initially our grandparents, and then eventually our parents. And the ultimate letting go will come at the end of this short life when we must let go of what Shakespeare called this mortal coil. And that will be, of course, the greatest liberation of all, because we will finally be free of the tyranny of the personality and all that is associated with that. But that's possible long before a physical death. It's possible to allow, so to speak, the personality to die, to lapse, and to become free in this life now. And it's via these various things that I've just talked about here. And I just hope that what I have learned in my 50 plus years can be of use to you. And I hope that you have gained something from this short video. And I really wish you all the best in your journey. I recognize that each of us must find our own way, and we're all on our own path. Ultimately, all paths lead, I believe, to the same destination, and that is that ultimate liberation. But my friends, I wish you the very best on this journey. I wish you peace and happiness. Thank you for listening.